Hello, my friends. Today we are talking about how to lose belly fat. So I'm here in Petaluma at my daughter's house, and it's a perfect opportunity to really talk about losing belly fat via great fiber, amazing food, and exercise. So this is going to be a really quick look at how and what really to look for. So a lot of times we kind of commiserate together and be like, after 50, I just, can't lose this last little bit on my stomach, or and there's a difference, and that's what I want to talk about too, is the subcutaneous fat, the fat that you could like pinch, or the fat that's actually around your organs. So what I like us to really focus on is the visceral fat that is around your organs, because that can be the most dangerous when we're talking about type 2 diabetes, when we're talking about heart disease, when we're talking about high blood pressure. All of these conditions can be brought on by high visceral fat. Now, the unfortunate thing about understanding your visceral fat is a lot of times you need to have like an in-body scan or a DEXA scan to really see, because there is such thing as skinny fat, right? Where you're thin on the outside, that subcutaneous, you don't have the subcutaneous fat. But then when we actually look at the organs on the inside, you have fat stored around your organs, and usually that is like what causes visceral fat tends to be like processed food. So high sugary diet, processed foods, the any kind of like hydrogenated oils. So, and also a sedentary life. So if you're like, okay, I can't make it to an in-body, I don't know like when I'll get there. One thing that you can measure is the circumference of your waist. So that being said, it's not, of course it's not perfect. Some of us are naturally bigger, some of us are naturally smaller, female, male, but for a woman, it's considered to be low risk or healthy if you have like a 32 inch waist, like right at that belly button level right here. So that is like one thing that you can just kind of take a look at. But as we're really thinking about optimizing, so not even maybe it's losing belly fat, maybe it's losing visceral fat, or maybe it's just staying really healthy and staying focused on our gut health, which we love to talk about, right? We always like to talk about that. So when I travel and when I'm at home, I always take a really good pre and probiotic. I take Aura, so the Aura supplements, but it's really good to think about in the morning on an empty stomach before coffee or food or any of that, is taking a good probiotic, because that's just getting your microbiome really healthy. And when you have a good, healthy gut, you're less likely to have that visceral fat. So my suggestion is getting a really good, so not just going to the regular like grocery store and getting a probiotic, but really looking at and it can be shelf stable, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. You can buy a probiotic that's shelf stable, especially like when you're traveling. But I can also give you a few suggestions. So, and you guys type in if you have any suggestions of some of the probiotics or prebiotics that you take. The biggest thing when you are thinking about losing belly fat and losing visceral fat is staying really active. And when you have more muscle, your body is a better, uses your fuel more effectively than if you have a sedentary life. So when you think about the ways in which you move, and always focus on building muscle. Muscles are a weapon in life for everything, right? They help our posture, they keep us safe, they help us like our energetic system, but they're also, your muscle is a really good weapon for losing that visceral fat, the fat that's stored around your organ, and the subcutaneous fat, the fat that's on the outside. So strength training, thinking about as we're doing any type of like core work, is maybe adding just a little bit of weight. Planks are really, really good. Thinking about all day long is kind of like this brace breathing idea. So when you are like gaining muscle in your posture, it's really important to think how you spend most of your day. So if we spend most of our day here and we're here, right, like rolling in or driving like this or on our phone, we're lengthening through our back, which is not great for us, not great for the lower lumbar. And then we're also not strengthening. So if you can, just take 1 second with me. Let's work on our posture. Throw your shoulders down and back. And then think about closing your ribs. And I want us all to think about like our lower transverse abdominals. So even though this is not strength training, you're building muscle by repetitively holding this brace type breathing. So as you kind of thinking about like kegeling in these lower transverse abdominals, and then take your thumb and put it on your belly button, and then just pull your belly button back a little bit. And when you think about, so you don't want a big like curve in your back. You want to take, Steph, I was telling the girls I was coaching, like young teenagers, and I was like, shorten up your suspenders, because that's what Coach Steph always says, like take your suspenders from your ribs and your hips and shorten them up. And one of the girls goes, what's suspenders? And I was like, oh, I totally like aged myself. So like, if you know what suspenders are, take your suspenders from your hips to your ribs and just tighten them up. So you don't want to over tighten, but you want a nice tight. And then this is braced, right? Your core is braced. So kind of give yourself that feeling, that brace. Now breathe. So it's brace breathing. So I want us to breathe not shallow, because sometimes when we hold our core tight, we keep our breath like up here in the upper part of our lungs. We want to keep the braced breathing and then lengthen. So now put your thumbs to your back and see if you can breathe deep into your back. So, and then exhale. Keeping that nice brace. It's almost like we're gonna like weight lift, right? Like keeping that nice brace. So just throughout your day, remind yourself that your posture matters. And the more that we're working on our posture throughout the day, standing is an active movement, right? Walking, running, picking up groceries is an active movement. So if we're bracing, then we're building muscle in our abdominals, and that's going to help our greater purpose. Okay, so I'm going to leave you guys with fiber. And I know we always talk about that, but there's tons of different kinds of fiber, and fiber is really exciting and lots of different ways that we can get it. It's fun to be at my daughter's house here because she has a beautiful garden, so I was able to go and find some kale for us for today. So when we're thinking about losing belly fat, whether it's visceral or subcutaneous on the outside, is greens are your friend. So lots of different kind of greens, and seasonally there's like winter greens and there's summer greens. And so eating seasonally is definitely easy when you have a garden outside, but just, you know, a simple Google search will show you the high fiber foods, because fiber is what cleans out our system. It feeds the microbiome. And so we have insoluble and soluble fiber. The fiber that you cannot digest, like in broccoli, is what feeds your gut. And literally, it doesn't just help you get rid of belly fat and visceral fat, but it helps you build your immune system. It helps you be more joyful throughout the day. It helps us deal with hard stuff that comes to life. So these things are really, really important, not just kind of that outside, hey, I really want to lose this like belly fat. What we're doing helps all of our systems. So broccoli is one, and I just pulled a few because any kind of vegetables, any kind of fruit are incredible. But if you're thinking like an apple a day keeps the doctor away, apples are really high in fiber as well. So just cut up an apple, put some cinnamon on it, which is like an appetite suppressant, but it has also really great medicinal values. And just eat an apple a day. Keep it really simple. And then fermented foods. So any kind of like sauerkraut, if you do your own fermenting, tempeh, miso, but just adding, and you don't have to have a ton, like my family doesn't love sauerkraut, so I just put 1 tablespoon, and that's all you really need. It's like 1 tablespoon of sauerkraut a day. And if you don't like it, then just you can even mix it in your stir fry or put it in your soups, and you don't even notice it at all. So just remembering to, maybe just if you go to Costco, like Costco has organic, like really big, yummy sauerkraut, and it stays great forever. So that's the nice thing about fermented, right? And then I'll leave you with mushrooms. So mushrooms are high in lots of medicinal values. These are just, we sell mushrooms at Kaya. So we have organic mushrooms that are medicinal mushrooms. They're great for memory, for immune system, for like longevity. But mushrooms are also really high in vitamin D, and adequate amount of vitamin D in your diet and in your body is shown to reduce visceral fat. So and it can be just simple like button mushrooms. It can be as fancy as like, all of like when you go into the grocery store and you're like, whoa, look at those mushrooms. Like eating mushrooms, we went last night to the Wild Goat, Steph's favorite, and they put mushrooms on everything, and beautiful little mushrooms. And you can do like a portobello mushroom in place of a burger. So lots of ways to get that fiber. But again, just remembering when it comes to belly fat is staying active is your number one thing that you want to do. You want to build muscle because your muscle is your weapon and keeps everything moving properly. Take a nice like probiotic and prebiotic in the morning, especially when you're traveling, because our systems, get off pretty easily. And then fiber, 35 to 45 grams of fiber a day. Let's just, we have taken a challenge to make the last 60 days of this year our best 60 days. And looking at like, okay, we're going to go into November, we're going to go into December. These can kind of be months that can be challenging to keep the sugar out, to stay active. It's colder, right? Those kind of things. So it's a really good time to take the challenge to say, I'm going to make my last 60 days of this special year that I was given my very best. And so we can take some of these things that like are, okay, hey, I want to lose belly fat, which sounds like extrinsic, right? It sounds like on the outside, but really knowing that eating our vegetables, working out really hard, taking probiotics when we are traveling can be this like vehicle that you can use to have your last 60 days be your best. Okay, I hope this was helpful. I love you guys. Thanks for jumping on.